Back, Shasta County, and everybody else listening. I am so glad you're joining us for the second hour of the Kevin Price Show here on KQMS. And we are broadcasting live in Redding, California. And like I had mentioned in the last hour, we're going to have one of my favorite people and one of my favorite artists here talking about music and everything country. That is Clare Dunn. She's an award-winning Nashville artist, songwriter, as well as a fifth-generation farmer and rancher from Colorado. She's toured across the nation with Bob Seger, Miranda Lambert, Chris Young, Cody Johnson, and many, many, many others. And her songs have over 500 million streams, and her live shows attract audiences across the nation, including top PRCA rodeos. And you can always visit claredunn.com, and that's CLAREDUNN.com for more information, and follow her on all social media platforms at Clare Dunn Music. So before we bring Clare on, I want to play a little clip of one of my favorite songs of hers, and that is When I Disappear. So Kevin, go ahead and hit it.
Storm raging on a great divide, the choice between living and waiting to die. So they bet it all on the other side of goodbye. And headed west on a wagon train, a dirt track trail for Santa Fe. Leaving everything behind, trying to find a better way. Yeah. And even though they're long gone, that kind of spirit lives on.
All right, I love that. Thank you so much, Kevin. So, Clare, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm great. And thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, absolutely. So, let's jump right in. When did you, get the entertainment industry bug? And when did you, tell us a little bit about how you started your career and what age you were and, what kind of led you into it?
Yeah. Well, I was always obsessed with music ever since basically I could talk. I was always that kid that was singing, and I was dancing around the house. And when I was really little, my mom was trying to figure out, what to do with this child who was raised I was on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and yet here I had all this love for music. And so she actually found a little small dance studio about an hour away from where I grew up, and they would haul me, my folks would haul me to dance lessons. And dance is really another form of music production for me in my brain. And so I just love music in general. And then when I started dancing, it taught me how to listen to music a different way. And then fast forward, I really got the chance to pursue music seriously when college came around. And so I moved to Nashville, went to college, and got my first publishing deal as a songwriter before I graduated. And so I was a professional songwriter, even though it doesn't really pay that well for anybody when you first start out. You still have to work a couple side jobs just to keep the lights on. But it was a huge opportunity for me, and I just started writing songs on Music Row and wrote songs for some other people, kind of hoarded a lot of my songs for myself, and then fast forward, got a little band put together, hit the road in an F-150 and a little trailer, and basically the rest is history after that. I started building a following, and fast forward, here we are today.
Yeah, and then how old were you when you signed your first big record deal?
I don't remember how old I was, to be honest, but when I signed my first record deal, that was a few years after college. So, somewhere in my 20s that point. And
so just a couple years ago.
20s probably.
Just a couple years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is awesome. Now, and I remember the first time I met you and first time I heard you perform live, it was at an event that we were both, you were performing and I was speaking at a Kash Patel event. This is like three years ago. So let me ask you, what inspired your patriotic angle to making music? Because there's obviously a theme there with a lot of your songs. And it draws a lot of different people in from a lot of different walks of life. But where did that patriotic angle, first show up in your music?
Well, I think really honestly, a lot of it just comes from how I was raised. I mean, being from a farm and ranch, those values run deep in our blood out here. Sorry, I'm on the farm right now. You might hear some birds chirping in the background.
No, it's okay.
But those values run deep out here in our roots, and from a musical perspective, Toby Keith was always a big inspiration as well. And he was a boy from Oklahoma. We farm and ranch in Colorado and Oklahoma. And so I took a lot of inspiration from him as well, that he was a great songwriter, number one, but he wasn't afraid to stand up for what he believed in. And I've always appreciated that. So I think a little bit of both. It came from the farm and ranch and how I grew up, but also looking up to people like Toby Keith. And, he blazed a trail where it wasn't really common at that point in our nation at the time when he really spoke up. So, and I think it's become more and more common as the years have went on. So that's a little bit of where it came from.
Yeah, and that's great. And then, speaking of speaking up, you just played at one of the on the main stage of one of the most, I think, prestigious events somebody could be invited to, and that was the Freedom 250 in Washington, D.C. And you did that. That was Monday, correct?
Yeah, they asked me to play on Agriculture Weekend, which was this past Friday and Saturday. But I had previous gigs booked actually out in California, and I've never canceled a gig before in my life, so I didn't figure I would start now. But we scrambled and we found a day that worked for everybody, and so it was Monday, which was Maha Day, which is great because being a farmer and rancher, there's so much about our food that's grown here in America that people don't realize is actually amazingly healthy for you, especially our beef. So
absolutely,
it was a great time. I couldn't be more thrilled to have had that opportunity, and once in a lifetime. How many times does America turn 250?
No, exactly. So what are some of your other favorite concerts or favorite venues or events you've played? I mean, I know you've played across the world in front of, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people over your career.
Yeah.
But what are a couple events that really stand out to you that, that are your favorites?
Yeah, I have to say when I was on tour with Bob Seger, which that whole experience was just such a cool thing for a kid from nowhere. But when we ended the tour, the last night was in Nashville. And Nashville is notoriously known for what's called like the Nashville Stare. And it's usually where people will come to your shows if you play in town. And because it's such an industry-heavy crowd, mostly everyone just stands there, stares at you with their arms crossed, and applause is there, but it's kind of minimal, and certainly no one gets too excited because, that's what we do. We go out to shows all the time. We see the best of the best musicians of the world, and it's just it is what it is. So we ended the tour in Nashville, and I was expecting it to be a really tough crowd. And everything up until that night was like just wild and raucous, and everyone was so into it. So I kind of prepared myself that may not be the case. And I think one of my most memorable shows I've ever played was that show, because here we were direct support for Bob. So that meant there was no one in front of us and no one behind us. It was just us. It was me and my band and then Bob. And I played my last song of my set, and we got a roarous standing ovation that lasted for like a couple minutes, which is a huge deal as an opener. And I think that for me was a really big milestone that, that community of songwriters in Nashville and musicians embraced what I was doing. And that's always meant a lot. And that was such a great, fun time because I wasn't expecting that at all. And then I've had the pleasure of getting to play a bunch of huge rodeos. Ellensburg Rodeo, which is top 10 outdoor rodeo in America. That was a hoot and a thrill. I've played the American Rodeo, which is held every year in Dallas Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas. I was actually the first artist to play that rodeo when it was just getting going a few years ago. So I have to say it's always the people who've really supported me, whether that be the songwriters and the musicians in Nashville or the agriculture folks who enjoy going to rodeos, that have kind of been my favorite shows. And I've started playing a bunch of farm shows lately this past year. So those are new on my list too for favorite moments. Well, people are just hiring us to come on their farm.
Yeah. Now let's talk about that. You're combining your musical talents with your obviously your advocacy for rural America and me living in Shasta County, like this is rural America. So tell me a little bit about that. And like, I know you just kind of mentioned that, how you're starting to go to more farms and, the impact of like the Make America Healthy Again on Monday while you're at the Freedom 250. But, talk more about your advocacy for rural America and then even how you've seen it change, like rural America change in the last few years.
Yeah. Well, rural America and agriculture have given me the opportunity to do what I do. Everything about my music is inspired by, in some form or fashion, of how I grew up on a farm and ranch in the middle of nowhere. And so about a year ago, I started to, just one day, kind of randomly, I just decided, you know what? There's so much that isn't being told about agriculture. There's so much reality that we all have to face as American farmers and ranchers that the American people doesn't know. And if the American people don't know the truth here, we're all going to kind of be in a little bit of a tough situation because we're losing control over our food supply. So long story short, just went viral many, many times over talking about this topic because it's what I grew up listening to at the kitchen table, hearing my parents talk about how the policies in Washington, D.C. were going to directly affect their checkbooks and their pocketbooks and their bottom lines. And so I think the American people are really hungry for that truth, and they want to support the American farmer and rancher. I think there's just been so much misinformation given to them that it's really been an eye-opening experience for a lot of folks because they want to support our own food production here, and we need to own it. And so anyway, all of this is kind of really tied into this one big, beautiful thing where it's my music and farmers and ranchers are having us come play shows on their places. We're doing benefits. We just actually played a benefit in Redding, California, right there where y'all are.
Yep.
And to help with the ranchers up there. And it's really been a community effort, and I could have never imagined that it would all work together like it has, but it truly has been a pretty synchronistic thing to witness, and I really couldn't be more honored for the support we've had.
No, absolutely, and you're a very, very easy person to support, and that kind of brings me to one of my last and final questions. Is as we've gotten to know each other a little over the last 3 years, I asked you. Didn't have to beg you, but I would say I asked you if you'd be willing to give back to kids and be a part of the California Adventure Camp experience that we deliver across the state. And so you've been teaching music and songwriting to kindergartners through 8th graders the last 2 or 3 years. And I know, and for the listeners that don't know, Claire does not have any kids of her own, but now she's got a few thousand that she's got to impact on a very, very massive level. And so tell us a little bit about your experience teaching songwriting to, very, very young kids up to 8th graders, and then just the impact that's, had on you working with kids, and, just some thoughts on that.
Oh, it's been such an honor to work with everybody at California Adventure Camps, and I couldn't be more thrilled to be some small part of what you guys are doing because it truly is amazing. And I just wish that somebody had been doing something like that when I was a little kiddo. And I wish someone had come to my school and said, hey, did you know that you could be a songwriter? Because I didn't know that was even possible till I went to college in Nashville. I had no idea that being a songwriter was an actual career in and of itself. And I had no clue that I was capable of something like that. And so for me to get to be in these classrooms with these kiddos and get to have that time with them to show them that, like, hey, this may be something that you've never thought of. It may feel like it's totally outside your wheelhouse, but give it a shot, give it a chance. And the changes that I see in these kiddos and you can see when the light bulb comes on. And, not everyone's meant to be a songwriter, obviously. But the ones who have that spark for it, you really can see that light come on. And there's no bigger reward than to give back in that way, because you don't know if they're going to use this what you're teaching them for a future career or just to help themselves in a tough time in their lives, which I believe all art is capable of doing. I think at the minimum, art helps us get through the good and the hard times in life and helps us to express ourselves in a healthy way. And so to see these kiddos who are affected by it, and then we've gotten to do a couple of shows with these kids in theaters there in town, and it's so fun to watch them really light up even more on stage and experience maybe something that they don't really get to experience all the time or maybe ever. And that's truly been such a humbling experience, because hopefully at the best, you just want to have or at the minimum, you just want to have a good experience or good effect on them. And, you never know where they might take it. So the whole process has just been awesome, and I'm so honored to be a part of it.
Well, yeah, and we're super stoked to have you. I know that you've been back and forth across the country this year doing them, and I think you've got, 4 weeks coming up here pretty soon? Yeah.
I'm going to be in Visalia, I think for 5 weeks, actually. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. I mean, and I know the kids
it's
go ahead.
Amazing farm country there in Visalia, so I couldn't be more happy.
That's right. So where can people find you, Claire? Give all your social media handles, your website, and any other plug where we can make sure our listeners who don't already follow you can follow you, listen to your music, download it, and become Clare Dunn fans like many of us.
You bet. The best place to find me is on social media at Clare Dunn Music on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, wherever you are, I am, and it's at Clare Dunn Music. And if you want to get more info on our shows or what else we've got coming up, head to claredunn.com. I'm going to be releasing new music very soon, which we're really excited about. So be sure and follow me and keep in touch.
All right, so we are going to go out with Cowboy State of Mind here in a second, because we have fans in the studio, and that's what they wanted to hear and go out with. So
I love it.
Claire, thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
You bet.